This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with Cambium Networks. Today is John Mead, and he is President of Engineering, Ethernet Switching Portfolio, and he'll be presenting today. If anyone has any questions, please submit them in the question box and answer them in today's presentation. John, thank you so much for being with Microcom here this morning. We greatly appreciate it. I am finished for now, so please go ahead and take it on over.
Thank you very much, Julie. I appreciate it. I appreciate being here. Thanks and hello to everybody. I'm going to spend 30 minutes or so talking about some of the new Ethernet switches that Cambium Networks is coming out with very, very soon. So what are we going to cover today? Let me try to figure out how to advance the screen here. Okay, so Cambium's one network, so a single vendor for all your network equipment. I'll cover that really quick, and then I'll get into the switching side of things, do a quick overview of our switching portfolio, talk a little bit about what's coming up next, switching roadmap. A lot of releases coming, but I'm going to focus on the two big ones, 6.2 coming out in just a few days, and then 6.2.1 coming out in a few months. Anyway, and then the meat of today is the two new EX3K edge switches, and I'll talk about those. So before I kind of focus in on the switches, let me take a step back and talk about Cambium's overall approach and strategy. You know, it's not just about the switches. It's not just about our Wi-Fi access points or our security products. It's about all of these products working together, seamlessly together, to give you a single one network solution that's easy to manage and easy to maintain. So simplicity, probably the single most important thing. It really makes your network, all components of your network, easy to deploy and manage. From a performance point of view, there's lots of advantages of buying all your equipment from a single vendor. You know, we make sure that these devices play together nicely, effectively, efficiently, giving the user a positive experience. The economics, same thing here. You know, buying all these components together from a single vendor. These are enterprise grade components at an affordable cost. So this is one network. We really do put a lot of time and energy into this, probably more time and energy into this single one network solution as we do into point individual products. It is the overall solution that counts, that matters. You know, I like to say 1 + 1 = 3, right? So when you buy multiple components, networking components from the same vendor, you really do get a magnification on capabilities, performance, and effectiveness. Okay, moving on. So this is an example of a multi-vendor network, very, very typical. So what I'm showing here is a single site. You have your access, you have your edge layer with Wi-Fi devices and your access switches. You have some types of network services with your SD-WAN security box that is eventually connected up to the WAN. Now, building on top of this network here, you have another building that can be located at the same site or in another city. And in that building, same components, right? Your Wi-Fi access, your access switches, your distribution switches, and then again, your SD-WAN security network services. Now, you might have multiple buildings on that campus, and these buildings can be connected via Ethernet or GPON. Now, for each of these devices that I'm introducing here in this slide, they need to be managed and configured, right? So up in the right-hand side of this chart, these are the multiple management applications that you need. You know, your network management system, your SD-WAN security management, your network services. For the GPON, you got your fiber management. As I build out this network, so next, let's say you have another remote building that's connected via fixed wireless, or you have an outdoor network that is also using fixed wireless connectivity. So you need management for that as well. So in this multi-vendor solution that I'm showing here on this slide, you have many components of this network that need to be managed. and they're showing up in the top right. So I have 5 different management systems for this network, and it works. A lot of networks are deployed like this, but it's not as simple and as easy to manage and configure as you would like. At Cambium Networks, every component that I just walked through, we do make at Cambium Networks, and we have one management platform called cnMaestro. That one management platform can manage every single one of these devices. So this is Cambium's one network, and it's the most exciting part of any presentation I do. No matter what the topic, I always include these few slides on one network. It is a big selling potential with Cambium. All right, let's focus in on the switches a little bit more. This is just a high-level overview of what we have today. So we have our EX family of switches. We also have our TX family of switches, which I'm not talking about today. But within the EX family of switches, we have 3 series of switches. We have the EX1K switches on the far right, the EX2K switches in the middle here, and the EX3K switches on the far left. It's the EX3K switches that I'm going to be talking mostly about today. And I have one other slide coming up that kind of talks about the whole family, the 1K, the 2K, and the 3K, and the differences. But just kind of to steal the thunder, the EX1K, 2K, 3K, what's the difference? Price. So with each series, you get more features, but it comes at a higher price. Like the 3K has more advanced features, L3 features, dual removable power supplies. The EX1K does not support L3, it supports static routes, and that's it, but at a much lower price. We do use one code base for the entire family of switches. All the features are common, the look and feel, the usability. When we find an issue on one switch, and we fix it, it gets fixed on every switch in the portfolio. So lots of benefits for using the same code base. Okay, moving on. Here's a slide chart that you guys can use as a reference. I won't go through this today, but we have a few new switches coming out that I'm going to talk about later. This table contains all of the switches that we have today, 22 switches, and we have all the key attributes are in this table. Okay, what's our roadmap look like? So let's start out. We have a couple releases that are currently shipping. I'm listing these because they're really good, rock solid, feature-rich releases. 6.1.1 came out in early Q4, and we're working on some key enhancements that we finished up, and we wanted to start shipping that quickly, so we released 6.1.2 at the end of Q4. 6.1.2, it's been shipping almost 2 months now, getting very, very positive reviews from our customers and the field in general. Okay, so 6.2, colored here in blue, this is the big release that I'm going to be covering today. This is the release that supports the 2 new hardware platforms that I'm going to be talking about. This release also has some significant software features as well. So I'll be talking more about 6.2 in detail. The next release is 6.1.3. This is a maintenance release. We include minor enhancements as well as improvements on ease of use and quality and robustness. Ease of use is something we are always working on. Every release we add a little bit more. Our goal is to make these switches, these products, easy to deploy, easy to manage, easy to configure, and easy to troubleshoot. After 6.1.3, we have another maintenance release coming up, a follow-on to 6.2, which is going to be 6.2.1. One key feature in 6.2 and 6.2.1 is MLAG. This is big. This is a very, very important feature and can do a lot for you and your network from a resiliency and redundancy point of view. MLAG comes out in 6.2 as a beta release, and MLAG will come out in 6.2.1 as a full production-ready release. A little bit later today, I'll talk in more detail about MLAG and what it can do for you, what it is and what it can do for you. And then coming out, we have more releases coming out towards the end of the year, 6.2.2, then also a larger release, 6.3. Won't be focusing on these 2 releases in today's presentation. Okay, so here are the two new EX3K edge switches. Just a high-level view of our portfolio. I touched on this a few slides back. Our enterprise edge portfolio, the EX family of switches, is divided up into three series. We have the EX1K, the EX2K, and the EX3K. What are the differences? Just what I mentioned before. As you move up from the 1K to the 3K, you get more features at a slightly higher price. Now the 2K is the sweet spot. It's the sweet spot of features and capabilities and a very competitive price. So this is where most of our customers look first. Now, if the 2K is out of the price range, well, then they'll go down to the 1K. The 1K price is important. It's about half the list price of the EX2K. And some of the advanced features are not available. Now, if the customer, when we talk to the customer about the 2K and they want more, that's when we move up to the EX3K. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. So the EX3K in general, it has dual removable redundant power supplies. It uses a higher PoE capability per port, up to 60 watts, or in some cases 90 watts per port, a higher density of those ports. The 3K in general also has more advanced features and capabilities, larger table sizes, and so on. Now, the two switches that I'm going to be talking to you about today also have multi-gig capability. So they're not single 1 gig access ports. They do support 2.5 gig on the access ports. We also, in the 3K family, just to round it out, I'm not talking about it today, is our EX3024F, which is our fiber aggregation switch. All right, so the 3K, I'm going to focus on the EX3K series of switches. Okay, so to date, we've released 3 models. Okay, so 2 of the models are 24 port and a 48 port, very typical. They each have 4 10 gig fiber uplinks. They also, but these 2 switches come in the 3K format, so they have dual removable power supplies. They were released in 2023, so they've been shipping for about 2.5 years or so. The 3024F is the switch I mentioned a minute ago. It's our fiber aggregation switch. So this is the only switch that's not really intended for the edge of the network. It's more intended for the distribution layer or aggregation layer of your network. And we just started shipping that. Well, geez, time flies. It's been about 1.5 years since we started shipping this fiber aggregation switch. So these are the 3 EX3K switches that we've released to date. What's coming next are the 2 new switches, and these are shipping at the end of this month, so very timely. Anyway, 2 switches. There's a 24 port switch and a 48 port switch. The 24 port switch, all ports are 2.5 gig capable, and we have 6 25 gig uplinks. There is a typo on this slide. I just noticed it's 24 by 2.5 gig, not 24 by 1 gig. Now on the 3052RM, we have 48 access ports. 24 are 2.5 gig capable, and 24 are 1 gig capable. And we have 4 fiber uplinks, and again, they are 25 gig uplinks. Now these 25 gig uplinks, they use an SFP28, and it's backwards compatible. So you can plug in a 1 gig transceiver, a 10 gig transceiver, or a 25 gig transceiver. So a little bit more detail. I kind of talked through this already. So we have the 3030RM, the 3052RM, the PoE 802.3 AFAT supports up to 30 watts per port. We support BT standard on these switches, so that's up to 90 watts per port on these switches. From a management point of view, it's the same as all of our other switches. We support a web GUI, support a very detailed functional CLI. All of our features are available via an SNMP MIB, but also, most importantly, we support these new switches with our cloud-based management system, cnMaestro. One of the biggest differences between the 3K and the 2K switches is the dual removable redundant power supplies that come on these 3K. The picture on the right shows that bottom switch on the right shows the back of the switch. Those are the two power supplies. Now, these switches do not require two power supplies. These switches are 100% functional with just one power supply. The second power supply is purely for redundancy reasons. And it's not because one power supply might fail. It's more the power circuit that you're plugged into might fail, right? Circuits blow much more frequently than failed power supplies. So anyway, so you can, with two power supplies, it gives you the ability to plug it into two different circuits. That's the main reason for the dual power supplies. So key functionality on these two new switches, they optimize for high performance wireless networks, bandwidth, power, automation, and security. Policy-based automation, I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. Very powerful feature, and it's a differentiating feature for us as compared to our competitors. It automates the moves, adds, and changes of network devices that are plugged into your switches. You can plug in, 100 access points across all your switches, and you simply just create a policy, then plug them in, and you're done. The policy will automatically detect the access point and automatically configure it. Out-of-box auto configuration is a part of Cambium One Network. You can do all your configuration from cnMaestro, and then once you plug in the switch, cnMaestro will automatically download the config to your switches. With these 3K switches, advanced features, as I mentioned, also larger table sizes. So we support more routes, more MAC addresses, more IGMP groups, and so on. So the timing for this release is end of February. So we're about 2 weeks away, and we're going to start shipping this new hardware. This new hardware requires a new software update, 6.2, which I'm going to talk about next. So on these two new switches, these multi-gig switches, let me show you what's happening in the market. So you got the lion's share is 1 gig. We all know that. The 10100 is at the very bottom down there. That's slowly going away completely. But 1 gig will continue to dominate the market. But you see the multi-gig speeds coming in there. And so, starting in like 2025, where is the growth? So let me zoom in on that a little bit. So in 2025, the 5 gig, 10 gig, it's pretty flat. The 2.5 gig on the edge is what's growing. You can see the tremendous growth here over the next 3 years or so. Okay. What I'm showing you in this table are the two existing switches that we started shipping a couple years ago. These are two EX3K edge switches. The various attributes are listed in this table, and these are shipping switches. I just added these two new rows in the table are the two new switches that we're going to be shipping in a couple weeks. I've highlighted in green the differences. So you can see on the EX3030, it's not just a 24-port edge switch, it's 24 plus 6. So it has 6 fiber uplinks instead of the typical 4 that you see on most switches. And these uplink speeds are 25 gig as compared to 10 gig on most other switches. Now, from a PoE point of view, people always talk about the PoE budget, which is no problem with the removable power supplies. Each of those power supplies can be up to 1200 watts. I'll show you the accessories as one of the last slides. But from a per port point of view, how much PoE can we support? Well, because we support the BT standard, we do support up to 90 watts. Now, the two existing switches that are shipping today support up to 60 watts. And on these new switches, we support up to 90 watts. 90 watts is in an enterprise deployment, you mostly don't need 90 watts. 60 watts is going to be just fine. But we were able to do it, so we did it. Advanced silicon on all of these edge switches, on these two new switches, slightly more advanced as well. And then the big difference is on this far right column. The big difference is multi-gig. The two switches that are shipping today exist today, that we've been shipping for about 2 years, do not support multi-gig. They're single gig switches. The two new switches are, each of them have 24 ports of multi-gig. Okay, I've been talking a lot about the hardware platforms. So what about the software? So these hardware platforms are going to be supported in our next software release, which is software version 6.2. And 6.2 is what's shipping in a couple weeks to enable shipping this new hardware. The new hardware, the two new SKUs that I just talked about, the EX3030 RM-P, the EX3052 RM-P. And the way you decode these part numbers is like 3030. The second two digits, 30 means there's 30 ports. So there's 24 access ports plus the 6 uplink ports. The 3052 RM, same thing, there's 52 total ports, 48 access ports, and 4 fiber uplinks. And then the first two digits, the 30, that just means it's part of the EX3K series of switches. New software functionality and enhancements, ease of use improvements. I list this one first. This is something we focus on a lot in every one of our releases. So I said it earlier, I'll say it again, easy to use, easy to deploy, easy to configure, easy to manage, and easy to troubleshoot. This is the big one, MLAG. I'll talk about this in a little bit, but anyway, this is only a beta release in the 6.2. So customers can play with it in their lab. It's not intended for production rollout. We also have some other features. It's a long list, actually. I just listed a few here to give you an idea. We do support VRRP in this release. Q&Q, we've always supported on our switches, but we did not support it on the 3024F. Now we do. The 802.1x, we've always supported it on all of our switches, but not on the 3024F. In 6.2, we do. Okay, what do I have next? So 6.2.1, this is a few months away, end of April, maybe into May. This is kind of a sneak peek as to what we're going to be providing. MLAG. So MLAG is production ready in 6.2.1. And what is MLAG? So I can spend a full webinar on MLAG, but I'm going to give you a quick a couple minute overview. So MLAG allows a single lag from an edge switch to terminate on multiple switches in the aggregation or distribution layer. So if you look at the picture on the right, look at one of those switches at the bottom, one of the three, the edge switch. That's a link aggregation, or you can call it a port channel. And you can see it's a 2-link aggregation. So you have one link going to one of the aggregation switches, and you have the second link going to the second aggregation switch. So those two aggregation switches in the middle there, the 3024Fs, they are connected together, and those are the two peers in an MLAG configuration. So now imagine one of those two switches failing for whatever reason. Let's say the power supply fails. All those edge switches that are connected, I have 3 in my picture, but you could have 10 or 15 connected. Without MLAG, all 15, you'd lose connectivity to all 15 if you had a single point of failure. With MLAG, you have that redundancy. So if you lose one of the two switches, you don't lose any connectivity at all. So anyway, MLAG is a key capability and very important for high availability. We have a new switch coming out. We're not sure if we're gonna make it into 6.2.1. It's a new switch in our EX1K series, and I'll be talking more about that in an upcoming webinar. Dynamic VLAN support, this is huge. So this on the Wi-Fi devices, as wireless clients roam and attach to different APs, new VLANs might have to be created to allow traffic to flow. That is normally configured manually ahead of time, but with this new feature coming out, that can be dynamic, automatically detected and automatically configured. So instead of having to have every VLAN that might be possible, let's say 500 VLANs configured, which creates quite a bit of overhead, you only need the ones that are actively connected. So it could be, 1 or 5 or something less than 10. Anyway, this will be a very, very nice feature. We're always working on robustness improvements, want to make the switch as solid and as robust as possible. So a lot of improvements, a lot of enhancements, some really key features here. Packet capture of data traffic. We already support the ability to capture management traffic. We want to be able to capture data traffic as well. This can really help with understanding the flow of data in your network and can help a lot if you're trying to troubleshoot a specific issue. Storm control enhancements. Storm control is something we support on all of our switches already, and we're enhancing that, providing more granularity. VLAN compression. Not all networks, but some networks have a lot of VLANs. We support all 4K VLANs. So with that many VLANs in the system, it can put a lot of load on the processor. Anyway, we've done a lot of work to compress that and to make it work seamlessly. Dynamic VLAN support, I've already mentioned, and then a few other smaller features not worth mentioning today. Okay, how are we doing on time here? Okay, automating the network. This is not related to the 2 new switches that I've been talking about. Automating the network is a set of features that we support on all of our switches. It's a great feature. Customers love this feature. They continue to buy switches from Cambium, in some cases because of this feature, automating the network. And let me talk a little bit more about it. So the term zero touch, people talk about it all the time. If you ask 10 people what it means to them, you're going to get 10 different answers. So let me give you my answer. So what does zero touch mean? It means automating the configuration that you would normally have to do manually. So one example is when you buy a switch. So when you buy that switch, you have some type of initial configuration that you want to put on that switch for deployment. And I have some examples. So let's say you want to statically create some VLANs. Let's say you want to identify which ports are your uplink ports and you want to use a port channel or link aggregation for those ports. Let's say you want to statically configure your IP address or use static routes and so on. Whatever your initial deployment is, do you have to buy the switches and then manually configure those switches before you deploy them into the network? No, that's not zero touch. So how do we solve this at Cambium? We solve this with cnMaestro. So you buy your switches, but you may not have received them yet. It doesn't matter. As long as you have the serial numbers for those switches, you can go into cnMaestro and you can load them up and you can use cnMaestro to pre-configure these switches. So that when you're ready to deploy the network and to deploy your switches, you plug the switches in the network, the switches will automatically establish connectivity with cnMaestro, and cnMaestro will automatically download this configuration. So all you do is plug in the switch, and then automatically this configuration will get applied. So this is what zero touch means to most people, but it's only half the story. The more interesting half, in my opinion, is what I'm going to tell you now. So you have the configuration for the initial deployment. We just talked about that. What about the configuration required for ongoing network changes? So let's say you want to add a video surveillance camera or a Wi-Fi access point or anything else, a printer. When you add those devices to your network, when you plug them into your switches, they will need some configuration also. And you either manually configure that or you find a way to automate it. And that's what we do at Cambium. We do have a way to automate this configuration. So let's say you're going to connect in some APs or some cameras or printers or some, if we start talking about IoT devices, then there's thousands of devices that you could add. So for each one of those devices, you need some type of configuration, maybe some security settings, maybe some network settings, what VLAN you want them on, things like that. So how do you automate that configuration? Well, that's what is unique at Cambium. We have a feature that I feel is very unique as compared to other vendors, a differentiating feature for us for sure, and that feature is called policy-based automation. So this slide is the beginning of a 2-hour presentation, but I wanted to give you guys a high-level overview. So let me try to summarize what PBA can do for you. So it will automate the adds, the moves, and the changes of network devices as they get connected into your switches. So the configuration associated with those devices can be automated. Now, automating that configuration has a couple major wins. It eliminates the error-prone and time-consuming manual configuration. So it greatly simplifies and reduces the troubleshooting that can be associated with this. We've all fat-fingered configuration before. and it's not a big deal, but it's definitely can cause time and energy to find and fix. So this automation eliminates that. Every port is treated equally with PVA. So policy-based automation, this policy engine, it is monitoring every single port. Every time something is plugged in, it gathers as much information about that device as possible. If that matches a policy that's been developed, then the actions associated with that policy will be applied. For example, let's say that device needs to be on VLAN 100. PVA will automatically create VLAN 100 and make that specific port a member of VLAN 100. It also makes the uplink ports a member of VLAN 100 so the traffic can flow through the switch. So security, big win for security. You know, auto segmenting these devices into the correct VLANs or correct subnets, very important. It doesn't allow some devices on the maybe sensitive, critical networks. In summary, it reduces expenses required to deploy and manage your network. Okay, now the really exciting part of today's presentation. This will only take a minute, bear with me. The accessories, not very exciting, but important. I have 2 slides. So this first slide is about our power supplies. These are our CRPS units that are used in our EX3K switches, the 2 existing switches that are already shipping, plus the 2 new switches will use these. Now we have 6 different power supplies to choose from. 3 of them are AC and 3 of them are DC. In the enterprise deployments, the majority of deployments will use AC power supplies. We have a 600 watt, a 930 watt, and a 1200 watt supply. If you use 2 1200 watt supplies, that depending on what switch you're using, that gives you up to 2400 watts or 2300 watts of PoE power. So from a PoE power budget point of view, you will not have an issue at all. And again, on these switches that take dual power supplies, 2 power supplies, you don't have to plug in 2. You can use only 1. You get 100% functionality. It's just that you lose, you don't get the resiliency or the redundancy if you buy only 1. Okay, next accessory and last one are the transceivers. We've been selling these transceivers for years. We have 1 gig short reach and long reach, 10 gig short reach, long reach, and copper, 1 gig and 10 gig copper transceivers. We've been shipping these for a while. We're just about to release, I'd say in a matter of weeks, we're going to release 2 new transceivers, and these are SFP28 transceivers. So up to long reach and a short reach, a 25 gig transceiver. And I believe that is my last slide. So Julie, I am finished. Transferring it back over to you.
Thank you very much, John. Wonderful presentation. And I do have some audience questions. If you are ready, I can get started with the first one.
Please.
Okay, here we go. First question here, John. How many does your latest spectrum management feature react to dynamic interference in high density environments?
I think this is a question on the Wi-Fi or fixed wireless side of things. I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question correctly, but I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. I do not know the answer to that question.
No problem, John. I can go right to the next question here. What architectural changes were made in the newest switch lineup to improve deterministic network behavior?
Okay, so this is a good one. I actually have fun working on this, and this kind of falls under the category of quality and robustness. And under any situation, we want the switch to survive and stay up and running and be stable. But there's a lot of strange situations out there. Broadcast storms are one of the biggest ones. Loops form in the network, and as a result of the broadcast storm, yeah, maybe additional loops form in the network. So how do you survive under that environment? Well, there's some packets management and control packets that you don't want to lose. For example, spanning tree, right? If you lose some spanning tree packets, you could be allowing loops to form that can cause major problems on your network. LACP packets, same thing. So when you have port channels connecting two switches together, if you lose LACP packets, that port channel could break down and potentially cause loops as well. So there's some packets in the network that are very, very critical, and you don't want to drop them ever. You want to process every one of them. And if you are in a broadcast storm, you want to lose as few as possible. There's other packets that aren't as critical. So anyway, so what we've done on our switches and our architecture is for all the different packet types, ARP packets and so on, all different packet types, we have a separate queue for each one of those packet types. And for each queue, we can set all the parameters, and we have rate limiting on each queue as well. So for span, and we can prioritize the queues, right? So weighted round robin or strict or however we want to service those queues to make sure the higher priority queues get serviced before the lower priority queues. So for example, spanning tree and LACP, two examples I gave, they will be in a much higher priority queue. And some of the other lower priority packet types, their queue will be a lower priority, but also they'll have more rate limiting. So a storm of that particular type of packet, we can drop those. So anyway, with a combination of prioritization of queues and rate limiting on these queues, we can provide very deterministic network behavior.
Thank you so much for that. Oh, am I done?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to add, yeah, and everything I just said is absolutely real world. This happens for sure. You get these network deployments, a loop forms, the switch becomes under a huge load from this storm of traffic. So having ways to prioritize the traffic so you don't drop critical packets is very real. It's very important. Okay, Joey, back to you. Sorry.
Thank you. My apologies. Here we go. Next question. How seamlessly do your newest products integrate with third-party cloud management tools?
Yeah, that's a tough one. We support, especially on the switches, every single one of our features is supported by an SNMP MIB. So if these other cloud applications use SNMP as one possible mechanism, then they could support our devices. But we don't put a lot of energy into this third party. We really promote and push cnMaestro. Now, our cnMaestro management can run either on-prem. A lot of customers don't like it out in the cloud. They want it on-prem, or it can run out in the cloud. And cnMaestro is a big seller for us, a big win for us. It really makes this whole one network solution a big positive.
Thank you so much for that, John. Couple more questions. Here is the next one. How do you validate firmware integrity across distributed deployments?
I'll try to answer this one. I'm not sure if I understand the actual question, but yeah, so corrupted firmware or firmware that is not loaded correctly, or using a different firmware that's not intended for our devices at all, can't happen, right? You can't download a non-verified image to our devices. The firmware has a checksum associated with it. So let's say the firmware gets corrupted somehow, and this is a real world situation, right? Like if you download an image to the switch, it loads it into memory, and then as it's burning it into non-volatile memory or flash, if you have a power cycle, then the firmware image can get corrupted. So the next time it powers up and tries to use that image, it won't use it because the checksum doesn't apply. Also, every image has a tag associated with it, and that tag has to be validated before it's downloaded, executed, and ran.
Thank you so much for that. Oh.
No problem. I was just going to say that's a pretty common approach. I've used that at a couple different companies that I've worked at.
Thank you, John. Last question here. What evolving customer needs are you perhaps hearing about most from service providers that will shape perhaps the next wave of products?
Let's see. I could take the easy way out on this one. I am, this has been going on for 20 years now, but IPv6 is a hot topic. And I mean, I heard about it a lot, 10, 15 years ago, but it didn't really take form yet. But I am hearing again a lot of requests and needs for IPv6 support. So we do have that in our roadmap. We're going to start out by supporting IPv6 static routing, and then we will add dynamic routing on top of that. I'm not sure if I answered the question, but
Oh, okay, no problem.
One example.
No problem. Thank you so much for addressing all of those questions for us today. And thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar. And if anyone does have any further questions, please feel free to contact your sales rep or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to view any of the products mentioned or shown today, please remember that this webinar presentation has been recorded and will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so we can all view it again, which I know I like to do. Excellent for anyone who needs to follow up on this. John, thank you so much for being with us today. We look forward to it. I will be in touch with you. Perhaps we can do this again in a couple of months or, later this year. We greatly appreciate that. Everybody,
Great.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.